Mistakes, key errors at the back and through midfield cost them this season. With a huge shift in players coming to the club, it's not surprising they fell short of their goals this season. The search for a new manager is absolutely alive for the club as they look to bounce back next season. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Player Zone YouTube channel and welcome to our Burnley season recap for season 23 and 24. A frustrating season for Burnley fans, a season with not enough excitement, not enough product in the end. There was a lot of hope coming into the season. Me, alongside many others who predicted them to finish around the mid-table, thought they'd be in that sort of Fulham mould, coming up with the record-breaking points in the championship. Scoring goals for fun, playing this such modern, progressive style of football, which got at teams and really controlled the game, the championship. And the way you can control a championship season like they did, you thought that'd easily contribute over to the Premier League. They'd translate over quite nicely. But in many regards, it was nowhere near that. And then when you look at it in a bigger picture, a lot of new faces, a lot of young faces as well. And to play this sort of high pressing, high possession, on the halfway line side of football, take some leaders, take some key players to lead that and be a part of that and deal with what can happen as a result of playing this at a higher way, the mistakes that come along with it. I just think this Burnley side weren't quite ready. The turnover in players was too much. I remember I took out Manuel Benson's name at the start of the season as a key player to look at. He barely saw the pitch this year compared to last season. The likes of Zekiam Doonies, Lyle Fosters, Sander Berger, all new players coming in, just to name a few, and it just didn't quite work out for them this season. But Vincent Kompany stuck to his guns, and hopefully they'll stick with it next season. But as we'll come on later in this video, Vincent Kompany looks like he'll be leaving the club, so there's a massive hole there at Burnley to see who can take over that job and guide them through another championship season to come. With that all being said, looking back at their season record, only the managers of 5 wins, the 9 draws, and the 24 losses, accumulating 24 points across the season. So just not good enough. A lot of those potential draws ending up in losses, and in some games, potential wins ending up in losses as well. And I'll touch on it a lot in this video here. They shot themselves in the foot a lot with continual mistakes at the back in terms of in possession, playing out from the back, midfield security not being good enough at key points in time, and overall just looking like they weren't ready. And it looks like the head had dropped after the first 5 or 6 games in the season, and they're almost expecting to go down, which is quite unfortunate to see for the Burnley faithful. Coming to the best signing of the year, it's probably going to be Wilson Odobert for me. €12 million signing, the 3 goals, the 3 assists. Again, not the great numbers, but with a lack of real supply and chances, he did fantastic. Some that showed that X factor in the final third and showed a bit extra. And a lot of these players struggle with the pace and power of the Premier League, but Odobert seemed to grow as the season went on. And every time the ball landed his feet, he's whipped out some worldy effort, scored some worldies himself, and always looked like a live wire. Whenever the ball went through him for Burnley going forward, it always ended in some positive result, whether it be a goal, fantastic build-up or a close chance. It always would go through Wilson Odobert, and I think once he was inserted into that lineup and played more often and the ball found his feet more often than not, you saw Burnley take their play up a notch. And I feel like the front 3, the front 4, you can't really blame these guys for the poor performances this season. It's also stemmed from the back line where a lot of mistakes are made, midfield lack of control, lack of chance creation at times. That's where it all went wrong. And I guess you can sort of put the onus in a little bit of the forwards in terms of not being clinical enough in front of goal. But when you have so many young players in the side, you're going to have to live and learn from these sort of situations with these young players up top. So I think Wilson Odobert was the most consistent performer come the second half of the season, the most exciting player for me, and as such, the best signing this season. Coming to the worst signing, it's going to be Aaron Ramsey coming across from Aston Villa. A lot of excitement around him as a key player to develop. I know he got that big injury come to the mid to back end of the season, which kept him out for the back end of the year. But your £12 million signing, only the 14 Premier League appearances. But in the appearances before the injury, never really set the world on fire. He was starting to build a little bit there, but whenever I watched him, I was expecting him to take over games, control that midfield for Burnley, and be a real leader despite being young. But he's got that quality to lead this sort of younger group. Never really showed that, never really put his best foot forward in many regards. I think just swallowed up by the situation a little bit, and maybe rightly so for Aston Villa to let him go because he didn't have the quality to stand up in the Premier League. Looks like it'll be interesting to see next season with the club in the Championship if he can rise another level and support them there. But Brownhill and Sander Berge look like heaps much better than heaps more quality than him. and up to the level and the standard of the Premier League. It just looked like Aaron Ramsey wasn't quite at the races this season. So interesting to see how he goes next year. He's coming off a horrible injury. Hopefully he can get back and get his fitness back. But then I'd like to see him be aggressive in midfield, be that link, be the real number 8, linking the defence to the attackers, and really carry the ball and be someone that's going to be hard to stop when he gets his head up. So that's a key player to look out for next season. But yeah, quite a disappointing signing considering the £12 million transfer fee. Coming to the moment of the season, there wasn't much to really talk about for Burnley, but I guess the best moment has to be the 1-1 draw at Old Trafford with Zeki Amdouni winning and scoring a penalty late on in that game there. Again, a season not covered in much excitement, glory, big moments, but going away to Old Trafford, despite being a bit diluted these days, is always a big achievement, and getting a massive point there was, at that point in time, helpful for a possible chance to try and stay up, but it wasn't quite to be. But yeah, got to be one of the best moments this season. Now, a few good results over the last few years going to Old Trafford for Burnley, so maybe a bit of an easier stomping ground for the Burnley side. We now come to our breakout player of the season, and for me, it was Lorenz Assignon. The 1 goal, the 2 assists, the 1.3 interceptions per game, the 2.3 tackles per game, the 4.5 ball recoveries per game, and interestingly, the 2.7 clearances per game. Very, very vital for this side, playing at the wing-back position there. Got up and down the flank very, very well. As you can see, the 1 goal and the 2 assists can show for that. Again, not ridiculous numbers, but was always available to go up and down that flank there and put dangerous balls into the area. And if you get, I guess, a more focal number 9, someone that can head the ball in the back of the net or score more often than not, those numbers will go up. And I think the signs I saw with Assignon, and especially in his stats here, you think about it, the 4.5 recoveries and also the 2.7 clearances was vital in repelling a lot of attacks, and probably the most all-rounded player we saw at the back. Again, a lot of mistakes were made back there because of this style of football they were trying to play. He wasn't a culprit, very often, and he was very good at covering over spaces, closing over chances, and stopping his direct attack. And I feel like out of all the Burnley players from midfield and defence, he was the most consistent in terms of stopping the opposition, being solid defensively. And when you can develop that output going forward, he could turn into a very handy and solid fullback, wing-back. So I think this season we saw a bit from him. We'd love to see a bit more next season in the Championship. It'd be great for him to learn with the pace, power, and increase schedule of the Championship if he can learn and pick a few things up and then come back to the Premier League like a lot of these young players and use what they've learned from there. But I feel like he lived up to the expectation. He took the Premier League on. I feel like he developed as the season went on. So definitely the breakout player for me was Lorenz Assignon. Coming to the player of the season now, and I think he's the captain pretty easily. Josh Brownhill, average of 6.95 average match rating, got the 4 goals and 2 assists this season, and was probably the most consistent performer. Held Burnley together in that midfield there, being the leader of the side, being the captain, being someone a bit more experienced, and he took that and showed it on the park. He looked head and shoulders above a lot of the players in this side in terms of ability on the ball, able to withstand pressure, withstand presses, and managed quite well, not only going forward, but also defensively as well, in covering spaces and covering holes. I guess not a natural, holding type player, but had to really play that because of how teams dominated Burnley at times this season, and someone that will once again have to lead this crew as they go down to the Championship, because they'll continue to be this really young side. A lot of 20-year-olds, a lot of 21, 22-year-olds. Basically, you have a lot of the starting 11 below the age of 25. So he's a real lead in this side. He's someone who has to stand up to the situations, and knows from experience what the Championship's all about. So he'll be player of the season this season, but also be a very important player for them going forward into next season if he stays at the club, to try and bring them back up to the Premier League. And you see about the match rating, 6.9 average match rating is very consistent throughout the season, and didn't really put many foots wrong this year at all. Now we move to the priorities for next season, and number one has to be now, with Vincent Kompany liking it at Bayern Munich, finding a new manager and finding a manager that will fit the system, because they've persisted with this progressive possession, high line style of football this year. It'd be such a waste for them to throw that all away because a new manager comes in and wants to play pragmatic. So very important you find the right man for the job, a man that understands what the Championship's all about as well, that 46-game compact calendar, and someone who can bring them back to Premier League glory in a year or so's time, because it's really dangerous, the Championship. You can't get stuck down there because it can be a long few years, as you can see from a lot of Championship clubs. And we've seen for a lot of Championship clubs this season, by changing managers so much and so frequently, it's actually hurt clubs. So you've got to find the right man for the job and find him straight away, especially now that Vincent Kompany looks almost 95% sure going to Bayern Munich. The second point is to keep your young stars, your Odebers, your Zeki Amdounis, the Asagnongs, even if you can get Fafana back on a loan deal again, that would be massive for the side. Keep these young players and continue to build them and develop them. As I said, a 46-game calendar in the Championship, very compact, has a lot of pace, has a lot of physicality. These players will learn a lot from playing that league. And if they've got what it takes to get back up to the Premier League, they'll have the ability to handle the Premier League. We saw what the Luton players did. They dealt with it quite well. Again, not to the extent to survive, but dealt with it very, very well down there. You look at the past at the Fulhams that learnt a lot from going up and back down and coming back up again. Just a chance for these players who hang around to learn from the Premier League, the mistakes they made, apply that in the Championship in such a hard league, probably the hardest league in the world, and then muster the confidence to go through that and then come back to the Premier League knowing that you know what, and these young players know what it's all about. They know how English football works, and they know they've got what it takes as well. So very important you try and keep this young core around the club. And thirdly, continue to develop this play style in the Championship, which is going to be interesting now that Company looks like he's on his way out. You've got to find a manager. You've got to stick with this sort of play style. You've played it now for over 24 months. These younger players are trying to adapt to it. There's no point in changing it to a more pragmatic style now. Stick to your guns. Stick to this high possession, high line style of football. Add a few players in that adapt well and can deal with this style of football. Allow players to acclimate, deal with it. Learn on the fly a little bit in the Championship, and hopefully come back up knowing you've played this system now. Some players for 2 years, some players for 3 years, and you come ready to go in the Premier League season for 25, 26 potentially. With that all being said, coming to their season grade now for Burnley, it's got to be a D. Underwhelming. Again, we probably should have expected this considering the turnover of players and how good the Premier League is, but a lot of us thought they'd be that team to survive this year, and they went nowhere near that. I think the frustrating bit is that, as I said a lot this video, they shot themselves in the foot, a lot of self-made mistakes, key errors, not being clinical enough in front of goal, lack of control in games, and then seeing their head drop so quickly. It just wasn't good to see for Burnley this season. They were too much of an easy beat. Didn't make Turf Moor Fortress either. It was just quite disappointing in all regards. So I'm going to give them a D rating. Really unfortunate. It didn't work out for them. But again, a great chance to go down with a potentially new manager, rebuild again, develop this style of football, develop these young players, and come back better than ever in 2 seasons' time to the Premier League. With that all being said, ladies and gents, that brings this video to an end. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. How do you see Burnley's season? What have been the positives, what have been the negatives, and how do they need to improve next season, especially if Vincent Kompany's on his way out? Please, guys, if you enjoyed the video, smash a like on it, subscribe to the Players Zone channel for more videos like these, and press that post notification bell so you know when we upload our podcast or any of our short videos like these here. With that all being said, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the upcoming football, and I'll see you guys in the video very, very soon. Next time, guys. See you later.